GPT-5 is the model that is probably going to be dropping today. There's a lot of hints pointing in that direction. Everyone's pretty certain it's going to be today. We know it's going to be in August, and they always release on Thursdays. And we've just heard that there is going to be a live stream. So our live stream tomorrow, this is coming from Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, the creators of ChatGPT. He's saying our live stream tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific time will be longer than usual, around an hour. We have a lot to show and hope you can find the time to watch. So if you're in the UK, that's 6 p.m. We can sit down, maybe with a beer, and watch, I think, the release of ChatGPT 5, which is exciting. This is a big moment, and I'm going to talk about why. It's not for the reasons most people think, but we're going to have a discussion. I'd also love to hear from the people in the comments what they're excited about, or if maybe you're not excited at all, maybe you are bored of all of these new models and they will feel the same, which is, I think, a valid concern. He also tweeted a picture of the Death Star, definitely the Death Star, over a planet. Very enigmatic, no text at all, just a picture of the Death Star. So it's a planet destroyer. I don't know exactly what the meaning of this is. Let's see if commenters worked it out. He isn't posting this unless he has max conviction they're about to blow our socks off. So I think he's saying our model is going to come along and it's going to destroy everything that's come before. What I think, maybe, and this is speculation, but I think this image that we're seeing on Twitter, a picture of the Death Star, basically, I think it's also been generated by whatever their new image model is. That would be my guess here. When Sam does these enigmatic tweets, it tends to have multiple layers of meaning. So he's probably using their new visual model in order to make a statement about, we are going to absolutely destroy you. We're going to destroy every single other model out there. He's posting it on Twitter as well, which is telling because obviously that's Elon Musk's platform. And the two of them have a rivalry, squabbling billionaires. So in terms of what we can expect, I think it's no longer important if the model is more powerful or not. All of the models are really powerful. That kind of is taken for granted. They're all so powerful now that it doesn't really matter how much incrementally better they get, because that additional power is going to be used in very niche cases, in mathematics, in engineering, in coding. That's a bit of a wider one, but for the general public, they don't care. I think the exciting thing about GPT-5, from the speculation and the rumors and what people have been talking about, is that they're going to start to unify the model. So one of the problems right now is that when normal people, everyday people, not people who are watching live streams like this, not people who are watching YouTube videos about artificial intelligence, but normal people in the street, when they use ChatGPT, they default to, right now, it defaults to 4.0, which is the kind of best general use model at the moment. Most people do not know that there is a drop down, and they, even when they do find that drop down, it's overwhelming. So let me quickly see what's on it right now. This is when I find out I've got GPT-5. No, I don't. So the drop down is hidden away at the top, and it just says ChatGPT 4.0. There's no reason for you to click on that if you don't know what you're looking for. So you click on that and it says GPT 4.0, great for most tasks. Fine. O3 uses advanced reasoning. O4 mini, fastest at advanced reasoning. O4 mini high, great at coding and visual reasoning. Is already getting confusing. And a few more. GPT 4.5, good for writing and exploring ideas. GPT 4.1, great for quick coding and analysis. GPT 4.1 mini, faster for everyday tasks. I work with this stuff every day. I don't know what the difference is between most of these models. I will use GPT 4.0 and GPT 03. That's it. The other ones are fine. Like, you'd use mini if you're doing API work, if you're building with it. And then I played around with 4.5 and 4.1, but I never use them extensively. So for most people, the 700 million users of ChatGPT out there, the people who are using this, the public who are using this on a daily basis, they're not opening this little drop down. And if they did, they would rightfully be absolutely confused and be like, oh, I'm not touching that again. I'll just use whatever the default is, which is 4.0. That's fine. 4.0 is very good. But what this means is, since the beginning of generative AI and ChatGPT, most users have not been using reasoning models. They've been using the standard model. So they put in a question, they ask ChatGPT for something, and ChatGPT will spit out an answer, which may be right, may be wrong. Because they haven't been using the reasoning models, that hasn't allowed them to kind of get to the next stage of how we use artificial intelligence. And I think this is part of the reason why a lot of people just use ChatGPT as a replacement for Google. absolutely fine for that, but it's not the best use of it. Whereas O3 allows you to think through problems and to tackle larger projects with your artificial intelligence. It's a more sophisticated use of artificial intelligence that I think a lot of people have missed out on because it's so hidden away in the UI. I think what's going to happen with this new release, and I think this is the important thing, is they're going to unify it so that normal people, the 700 million users of ChatGPT, suddenly now have access to a reasoning model. For those people who haven't known about O3, they don't know about R1, they don't know about all these other reasoning models we've had. For them, it's going to seem like ChatGPT is suddenly an absolute genius because they've gone from using the basic model to suddenly using something more advanced that can think through a problem. I'm air quoting that if you're listening to the audio version, heavy air quotes on thinking. So for them, they're going to be like, oh, wow, GPT-5 is amazing. I think that's the important thing here is that 700 million people are about to have that experience with ChatGPT that we've already had, but they're about to catch up. And I think that's really cool. I think there's three levels here. There's things that I'm excited about. I'm excited about it having a larger context window. That has not been confirmed, but at the moment, ChatGPT's context window, the amount of memory, the amount of information it can work with is tiny. And it's much, much smaller than Claude and Gemini, especially Gemini. So that's really what's holding it back. Obviously, expanding that context window and allowing more tokens costs them more money. That's why they haven't done it. But that would be the game changer for me, and I think for most advanced users of ChatGPT. I'd also like to see some more hallucination safeguards. You cannot get rid of hallucinations. That's just part of large language models. It's part of the stochastic nature of predicting the next token. So there's always going to be filling in the gaps, basically. What you can do is build on top of that things that check its assertions against websites, for example. So you can add a layer of search on top and after it gives you an answer in order to verify it. And that can be built into chain of thought as well, built into the reasoning model. So I'd love to see that as well, because that's going to help everyday users be more trusting in ChatGPT. Because right now, one of the main reasons people don't use it, and a good reason, is that it makes stuff up. And it really can. And unless you know how to work around that and to check for it, it can be damaging. So I'd love to see that as well. They're my wish list. I'd love to see larger context window and better hallucination safeguards. I don't care if it's smarter. That's not important. It's these two things. I think for the game changer for the general public will be a unified model. So having access to a reasoning model without having to ask specifically for a reasoning model. I think that's going to be really important. I think what's going to get the most attention and what's going to be flooding Twitter and social media for the next few days, next few weeks, will be video and image generation. So they already have these tools built in. They have a DALL-E-based image generation, and Sora is for video, but it's cut off from the rest of the experience. I think that's going to be embedded and made more widely available, and that's what's going to allow them to have a viral moment and to be seen, because things like reasoning, things like how you can use ChatGPT at work, useful, and that's what we actually use it for, but it's not very sexy. It's not very visual. It's not very exciting on social media. What is are videos of people cutting open cakes and there's a galaxy inside or whatever. So I think they'll probably have a bit of pizzazz from their photo and video generation. And that's what we're going to be seeing on social media. I think the actual improvement here will be a unified user interface, which is very boring sounding, but boring can be important. We do know, though, that there were three models, which is confusing. Let me find what they were. There's one called Mini and one called Nano, I think. Here we go. So GPT-5, GPT-5 Mini, and GPT-5 Nano. So these icons have basically leaked. I think they're in the API documentation, and they came out yesterday. So we have a fairly good idea that there are three models. I don't think that these are going to be accessible via the UI inside the chatbot. I think that these are for the API. They're for people who are building with these models. I think that GPT-5 will be the unified model, which is basically 4.0, the general model, plus O3, the reasoning model, put together and improved. I think that's going to be the case. This is all speculation, though. Absolutely. So we'll see. We will find out. Everything I'm saying could be wrong. Everything everyone is saying could be wrong, and they could have something completely different. But this is what it seems to be pointing at. And we will find out, I think, today at 6 p.m. UK time, or what was it, 11 a.m. got in Pacific time, or 10 a.m. Pacific time. So hopefully it's going to be an exciting day, and I'm not on holiday, so I can actually talk about it tomorrow. So I'll spend this evening using it. So tell me, I'm going to switch over to chat and see what people are thinking about GPT-5, if they're excited or if people don't care. I do notice a lot of people get bored with the rate of novelty, the rate of change in AI, and I think that's fair. It's like a torrent of information. Here's a good question. Will ChatGPT 5 release only in America or the UK too? So historically, they have done their announcement generally on a Thursday and immediately released it in America. What has happened is the servers need to come online. So lots of people in America will be sitting there, refreshing, hoping to get access. And then eventually you'd be like, oh, I've got it, as it starts to propagate around the country. Then they tend to do the rest of the world. Then they do the UK, and then they do the EU, sometimes with a much longer delay on the EU. That may be even longer now because the EU AI Act is now in force as of the 1st of August. We do not know, but previously there's always been this kind of staggered delay, and that might be even worse now. So sorry, it's only that's a value judgment. It might be even longer now because of the regulation from the AI EU Act. They haven't mentioned anything about it. What I would say is it should work as well this time. You can use a VPN to VPN over to America to get access to the models. So that's what I plan on doing. I'll be switching my VPNs over later in the afternoon, scrolling around, making sure it looks like I'm in America. And then when it comes to 6 p.m., hopefully I will be in the US rollout rather than the UK rollout, because it generally takes a few weeks. Or in the case of, what was it, Sora? Sora took months and months to make it over to the UK and the EU, which is very frustrating. Brand says OpenAI dropping that 20 bill open source model is crazy. So yesterday, OpenAI, they're having a busy week. Yesterday, OpenAI dropped GPT-OSS, and it comes in two forms, two flavors, 20B and 120B. So that's basically the size of the model. So 20B is a small one, which can theoretically work on telephones. It's very slow, and I don't see anyone who's done that successfully yet, but correct me if I'm wrong if you've seen it in live. And the 120B is you need a proper machine with some GPUs, but they're open source. So the big thing is that they've given away these models, including the weights. So you can poke around inside, you can see how it is built specifically, and then you can build on top of it. You can fine tune it, you can do what you want with it, which is very different to their normal models, which are closed off. You cannot see what's going on inside. You can pay to get access to it, and you're basically sending information in and it sends information back out, but you don't see what's happening in here. With an open source model, you literally get to download that file and you can have it on your computer and you can poke around and do what you want with it. I think the only reason why they're confident enough to release the open source model is because they know GPT-5 is dropping today. Yesterday, they dropped the open source models. Today, they're like, okay, I'm glad you love those open source models, but now here's something that's going to blow your socks off, something that's so much better that you're still going to be using our paid for models. You're still going to use our private models. So I think it's fantastic that they've dropped these, and especially that they've made them open source. But what it mainly tells me is that they're extremely confident about what is dropping today with GPT-5. Because if what they release is just as good as these open source models, or just only slightly better, they have shot themselves in the foot by releasing the open source models, because they've given away for free the open source and then expecting people to pay on this side. That's going to be really tricky. So I think it's positive. It's fantastic that they are open source, and it also tells us that GPT-5 is going to be really good. That's my hope, at least. How do people run really large models at home? Everyone got supercomputers at home or something. So you can buy GPUs. I would not recommend it. They are extremely expensive. Let's see how much they are right now. An H100 is, a refurbished H100 is £24,000. You'd need a few of those. So it's not very practical. So what you do instead is you can rent a cloud server. Just trying to find one. Who's the one? Vast AI. You can do it through Google. You can do it through AWS. Lambda is the one that I like. I've totally forgotten the name. So I'll put it up on the screen as well. So Lambda is one of multiple hosting companies where you can basically go and you can rent a block of GPUs somewhere on the cloud, and then you install a local model. So something like ChatGPT, OSS, you install it on their computers. So you'll have a little partition on their servers. And let's have a look at the prices. So an H100, they used to have a much better pricing table. Here we go, on-demand cloud pricing. So let's say I wanted 8 GPUs, graphical processing units. It doesn't say which ones they are, but I assume they were, oh yeah, the H100. So if I wanted 8 H100 cards, that's going to cost me $3 per GPU per hour. So 3 times 8 is 24. So $24 per hour to rent that server. Obviously, depending on what you're doing, if you are training a large language model, then you're going to need a lot of capacity. That's where a lot of the power is needed. If you are just running a large language model, you do not need as much power. So inference requires far less compute than actually training a model. So this is how you do it. You could buy the GPUs yourself. It's generally not worth it because new GPUs come out and then you'll have to sell your GPUs and get other GPUs. It's not worth it for most people unless you are running an actual lab building large language models. So instead, you rent them from a company like Lambda. You can also do it on AWS. You can do it via Google. There are many ways to do it. So what you're going to look up, you just Google something like AI cloud pricing or AI cloud rental, and you're going to be able to find GPUs or GPU rental. And that's how you do it, because otherwise, far too expensive. Elon Musk is spending billions. They're talking about billions being spent on data centers right now. So it is now no longer practical for individuals to train large language models. Sorry, you can do it as a hobby, but you cannot do it as something that's going to compete with the big 5 or 6 companies. What you can do, though, is you can rent a server and you can run a model. And you don't do it at home, you do it on a rented server.